You know, I mean. Today I am on Mars and I came here with my time machine right when the Viking Landers arrived. I would like to tell you the story of the bleeding stone seen by the Viking Lander number 1 around 1977. So let's start immediately and see what is it about. See you in a minute. There we go. So here comes the story about the bleeding rock. So a few years ago, I was brown. Actually, many years ago, I had all my hair still brown. I was surfing the internet, early internet, and I stumbled into a website of a guy that whose name was Tim Beach, and he had a photo taken by the Viking of a stone that apparently was bleeding. So I got very curious about this, and now finally, after probably 20 years, I am doing my own research about this. So the Viking mission were launched in 1975 and arrived to Mars in 1976. There were two different spaceships, so to say, with two different landers and orbit. Plenty of experiments of all possible kinds, sampling the soil, making holes, trying to understand the wind and the effects of the wind, making small cones of sand. The soil was taken into the lander, into some container where the experiments were carried out, biological experiments with biological agents, where radioactive materials that were also made interact with the soils, and so on. Lots of very interesting things. You can see, you can find everything on the internet. Everything is there. Detail. I'm going to focus on the particular bleeding stone. Close to this stone there has been a sampling of the soil that is called XFRS7. The trench number 7 was dug on the Sol 285 and 286. It's a double trench of the Viking 1 life on Mars. You see here the book, the report, the main report about the Viking mission. If you go at page 45, there is a view of the terrain around the lander at the end of the mission. We'll zoom in. You have here, as you see, the lander, the two cameras, number 1 and number 2. And what we have said before, the XRFS number 7 is the trench that cut the stone into. There is a big stone here at the side that is called sponge, and it was apparently moved by the arm during some operations. Right. Our stone is more or less placed here. We can then jump at page 180, where there is a scheme of the trench XRFS number 7, alright? And we zoom in again, and you see here, this is a double trench. The first one is the one closest to the stone. This is our stone, the bleeding one. There are marks here, markings that show you the size of in meters in the two directions, X and Y, with respect to the lander, with some system of coordinates. And basically between these two, 2.9, 2.8, this means that are 10 centimeters, okay? So the size of the stone is probably the longest size, around 7 centimeters, something like that. The first trench was dug in the Sol 285, the second one in 286. There is a caption here that tells you a lot of other details. For example, check in a table 39, item 21, this is what we are talking about. So I know already, because I checked, that this is page 147. At page 147 we have the item 21, which is our sampling. These are basically the sol, the time of the day, two different trenches taken into different times in sols. This is the position with respect to the camera, to the center of the lander, so azimuth and more or less 130 degrees, and elevation is around 25-26 degrees. And then there is a whole description here. Trenched by small extensions after surface contact, the elevation, small retractions, and then extension to produce skimming motion during the sampling. Second trench is in drift material of wingtail superposed of first trench, which means basically when the lander landed, in fact, made a bit of a mess on the surface, right? Second trench is 4 cm deep, 10 cm wide, and 67 cm long, from tip to tip to rim crest of tailings. Sample came from depths between 1 or 2 cm, and a sufficient sample was delivered to the actual laboratory. It doesn't tell us much of what we see in the picture, so now let's go and check, in fact, the actual images from the archive. So there we go. As a matter of fact, this is the archival page, a page of the archive of the Viking Lander. And well, I prepared already. The original image is the one called by Tim, is the one called 12D091. Okay, so the first number 1 means that's the lander number 1. 2, the second number means that it's camera number 2, and then the D, I don't really know what it means. And 091 is the 91st image taken by this camera. Okay. I have downloaded a number of images around this one to see if we can picture the stone before and after the trench was dug. There are several images that were taken on this area, and here I made a list just in case you want to double check. We can just have a look at a few of them. For example, from the camera number 1, the image A147. And this is a stone. So our stone is in fact this one that you see here in this moment. This image was taken much before the trench was dug. Was observed in Sol 26, so at the beginning of the mission. Let's now go for Sol 79, for example. This is 11B169. This is the image 11B169, where you see the trench again 1-3, and the sponge stone, and finally our bleeding stone, which would be this one that was then cut later. So you can compare the two, before and after. Again, this one that you see at the other side of the trench, it seems to be like cut in two. In fact, it's not a part of that stone. It was already present in that position before, so it has nothing to do with the original. Sol 288, and this is after the 3 days after the trench was dug, and here you have the image 11D061, and this is the stone right a couple of days after the trench was dug, and in my opinion here there is no bleeding, so to say. So it seems to me that at the beginning there was no fluid leakage from the stone or on the stone, or however you want to say. Okay. The image, unfortunately, is a bit ruined here. There is not, something might have happened with the transmission of the data to the Earth, but to me it's pretty clear it's different the way it looks like. Okay. Okay, so I played a bit with the images, and I tell you I played with the 11D 84, 85, 86, which is a sequence of blue, green and red. And then I played with the 11D 180, 128, which is also sequence 3 exposures, blue, green and red. I'm gonna show you immediately. Let's start with the 84, 85, 86 are 3 images taken in a row, which are blue, green and red. So here you have the blue one and the trench with our stone that has been apparently cut. Let's zoom, this is the green one. And in fact, well, you know, the resolution of the Viking cameras was not as good as today's mobile phones. So as a matter of fact, I can still see some of this leak of possible leak, apparent leak of fluid, and this is the red one. I still see something, but I have to tell you, it's much less clear than it was before. Okay, so in fact, on the 12, the one taken from the other camera on the other side, on his camera 1, camera 2 has a different view, and it seems to be more shining and should see better. I combined them using the GIMP. Okay, and I played a bit with the stretches, so we can zoom again. All these colorful dots are because various images have different cosmic rays or bad pixels and so on. So these are nothing, okay, just an artifact. Just focus on the stone. There seems to be, in fact, this kind of feature. Dominant in the red, I would say, as we saw here. It's more clear in the red than the green, a bit less, and in the blue is really not really clear. The blue is the one with lots of hot pixels. 128 has been taken a bit later. Okay, so this is the blue, this is the green, and this is the red. And I also combined them again. Here is a fantastic RGB image. Let's zoom in, and frankly, except for this hot pixel there, I don't see any bleeding anymore. So summarizing, in Sol 285, the trench number 7 was dug, the first one. Then in 288 there is an image that shows nothing. In the 84, 85, 86, that is the Sol 295, there is a hint of the bleeding. In the 12-091, which is taken at Sol 296, we see the bleeding. But again, then in 11D128 and Sol 302, we don't see any bleeding anymore. You know, I mean, okay, I let you think about it, and meanwhile, last thing I want to show you, I have checked the 11E082 in Sol 351, where in principle you can still see our bleeding stone, and if you check it out, I would say I still see the bleeding again. We haven't solved the mystery unfortunately, but it was a very interesting study in my opinion. If there is any researchers that worked in the Viking missions that is by chance finds this video and knows more, please contact me and let me know, because I'm very curious to know what happened there. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this bleeding rock, what was that. And well, I'll see you next time with the next random video. Mensen is Sajindim. I promise it will be not so far in the future. Ciao!